Welcome to the Loud Quiet. Ooh, empty nester. Okay. What does that mean?
Yeah, I think that actually probably is the theme of the empty nest. What are we doing? Let's do this. Let's do this thing. I don't know if I'm recording. Yeah. Okay.
Great. Sans children. Just us. We need a tissue box up here. Follow along on our journey, and maybe, we can learn from others.
Yeah. I don't have a clue how to be empty nester.
This is the Loud Quiet. Living the Empty Nest.
Welcome back, everybody. Episode 42 of The Loud Quiet, Living the Empty Nest. Want to start off by saying thank you for those that did send some messages and also commented on the Facebook post about last week's episode, which was focused on my mom. And it was just nice to hear some of your stories, and thank you for sharing those stories and just being vulnerable with what your experience has been as well, which that's also a bit of an aside for those of you that have just found us either through just straight up Spotify or YouTube or any of your other listening platforms. Facebook is our primary place where we're having conversations with y'all. And so if you aren't already following The Loud Quiet or Clancy and me individually, go out there and follow The Loud Quiet, and that's where you can keep up with the show. Yep. But thank y'all for that of episode 41, and now it's on to 42.
Yes, and first of all, happy Father's Day. Today is Father's Day, so happy Father's Day to all of our listeners. I would imagine most of our listeners are fathers, because to be an empty nester, I guess at some point in your life you had to be a father. But and I realize we do have some that do not have children that listen, so we appreciate. But yes, happy Father's Day. I guess everyone either has to have a father or is a father. So
I guess biologically,
yes, I understand. Some people do not have a relationship with their fathers, but yes,
fathers can pass. So everybody's got a unique situation. But today is Father's Day, where we do focus on that.
So happy Father's Day.
Thank you.
So we are. This podcast is about being empty nesters. Right. That's why we started it. We have now had coming up almost on a year under our belt of being empty nesters. And so this is our first summer with going from that back to, the kids are back, or some are back and some fly in at certain points and go back. But so it has been interesting to jump right back into mom and dad mode, and
the difference of what mom and dad mode is too, right? And that has been, it's been interesting, so overused, but it has been enlightening, interesting for us to go through that. And when I think back to, if I were to have asked myself in, let's call it September 3rd of 2023, what I would be thinking and feeling about the return to the empty nest, I would be thinking and feeling something completely different then than what I'm thinking and feeling now.
Yeah, and, it is different this summer because Tanner did stay in Arizona. Now he has come back, for the services and then stayed, as we talked about. And so, we had a time frame of like 4 days to get everything set up for him to come back and start law school in August. And it's been, let me just say, you spoke last week about how you were going to start seeing a therapist just to unpack some stuff. And one of the big things you talked about with your therapist was the idea of rest.
Yeah.
And so we talked about that. And then, seriously, the next day, the verse of the day was, and I have to sorry, I didn't do a presentation this time, so I'm flipping through, but, was the Mark 6:31 through 32. This was literally the next day, and I screenshotted it to you and sent it to you, and you said, yeah, I saw it this morning, and it says, let's go off by ourselves to a quiet place and rest a while. And after going through everything that we have been through the past, and to think that it's only been a month, you and I are both just craving rest, but life is life. We can't do that right now.
We haven't, and I always catch ourselves on that. We choose not to. it is an important reminder that those choices, these are the right choices not to rest right now. We get it. It is not a choice that we can continue to ignore. As I was talking in that conversation, there's just so many threads of incomplete thoughts, actions, activities, categories of life that are difficult to untangle right now. And it was at her guidance of, well, what are you doing to rest? What are you doing to recharge? And I talked about some small things, but she came to know us. I'll use the word us through my stories, that travel is such a recharge for us. The kind of travel we've done, though, has been focused on others. And this is going to be incredibly selfish, but sometimes being selfish is actually the right choice. Mm-hmm. Let's go off by ourselves to a quiet place and rest a while.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, because it has been, I mean, like I'll just flip through the barrage of, I just pulled a few, texts, like,
oh my gosh,
just to see
we can't even see them.
Yeah, I know. No, we'll go back and focus on some of them, but just because your kids are college age and they have been living on their own for how many ever months before they come back home, and not like, I mean, everyone knows that listens to our podcast. We have very tight, close relationships with our kids. We saw them at least once a month, probably every year since Tanner started school. And, yes, we constantly text and do things. But, I mean, it is just, okay, you figured these things out when we were states away.
Why is it not?
Yeah, and it hasn't been all that.
It's
but
not,
we
don't want to give the wrong impression.
No,
I certainly don't feel like suddenly they've completely reverted. It's more comical than serious or anything along those lines.
I think trying to plan a vacation we thought was going to be easy. They're both on college calendars. Great. We don't have to be back for any kind of high school stuff anymore. No, this year has been harder than any.
It turns out that there were actually, and this is not an exaggeration, not one bit, there were 4 days that we were able to plan a vacation.
We're going for 5 now, but yes.
4 nights, sorry.
Yeah. But yeah.
4 nights.
Yeah.
And that's it. Now, one good thing about that, it simplifies your travel planning.
Yeah. I mean, it just.
We fly this day, we fly back.
And it's because, Tegan wants to work as much as she can this summer.
Tanner's working up to a point, and then
Tanner's in Arizona, but then, one of the texts I have in here is they are now going to Lollapalooza, which came together, which happens to be the 4 days before we leave for our vacation at the end of the summer.
He has fallen bass backwards into an incredible situation. Yeah. So it's one of those of, heck yeah, go do it. Because guess what? Mm-hmm. As we know from being adults, once you enter into that next phase of life, and while it's law school, it's much more like the professional life than college was. It may be education, but it's still law school. Do it now, because you're not going to be able to do it again. And I think one of the things you're talking about here that's kind of eye-opening to me when I talk about what I would have in September thought of last year as compared to now is I would have thought exactly that. Things would have gotten easier. Mm-hmm. Things would have gotten simpler. And while we have talked for 40 some odd episodes where it has gotten easier and simpler, it's not just suddenly where you can do anything you want at any time, regardless of anybody else's demands. Right. You are still part of a community, a family, a relationship. And that's different than what I think a lot of folks think going into the empty nest.
Yeah. And I think also our children being who they are and who we are and how we have incorporated travel into our lives since their beginning of their lives, a lot of kids will be like, oh my gosh, how do I get to Chicago? I don't know. I mean, Tanner, through a series of texts just because he wanted to make sure, he was choosing the right things and that kind of thing, but it was, okay, if I do this flight and this flight and this flight, and like I'm in the car driving and all I'm getting is on my screen. So I get home, I was like, all right, I think y'all got it all, situated. But just to and I've even heard Tegan mentioning things. Oh yeah, next year we want to go to this festival and we want to go. A lot of kids wouldn't think, oh, I can get on the plane and go here and go there and go, it's just.
When you're trying to get your kids out, you're trying to equip them for life and travel skills, even the basics of navigating an airport.
Yes.
We made them guide us. Getting through international stuff, made them guide us. And that's, yay, pat ourselves on the back. That's something I'm actually kind of proud about.
Just talking this week with one of my friends who her son is trying to plan a trip with his friends, some of them didn't know how to buy a plane ticket. They've never,
Do I go to the ticket store?
Yeah. No, I mean, and, her son was like, well, it's just like when you're getting, you just go online and get, but yeah, there's, which we have told this story. I don't think we've told it on here, but when we do go to a different country, anywhere, as the kids have gotten older, we pick, there's a day that we let them kind of navigate us around so that they know. And now with the phone, it's so easy, but so that they know how to do that. We let Tanner come back from in Hong Kong by himself from some night market when he was a sophomore in high school.
Is that right? Yeah. So sophomore in high school. Yeah.
So, and we have let them do, and I think it's benefited them because now they know how to. Tegan can go get on her flight in Tucson or Phoenix and get home. So yeah, that was an aside that I wasn't expecting to go down, but
bonus
just
for you.
So,
which, well, there you go. The Empty Nest has a lot of those asides, but they're back. Yeah. They're back, and we're involved.
Yeah, and there are things that they're very independent on, but then there are things that.
Well, I'll give you another example. It's kind of travel related, but I would love to do one last road trip with Tanner. And it is clear that he is not as interested in that. And I don't take offense to it. I have a desire. He has a different desire. There's no offense there. But I would love to do that one last trip. But he's like, no, I got this. I can drive by myself. We're good. But Tanner, one last Grand Canyon visit. Nah, I'm all right. So.
Yeah.
And it's the starting of that. Like, I mean, think about our relationship with our parents. It's. You just incrementally peel away from what that relationship looks like.
Yeah. But it has been, so we could go back to the week that we were with Tanner here trying to find apartments, which doing college apartments for all of those of you who have kids in college right now. Now we didn't even see a single one of his apartments before he moved in. No. The boys went and found something. Here's the forms. I need you as the guarantor.
Yeah, basically, here's my apartment, pay for it.
Yeah. We never even saw him. So this time, we were a little more involved. And
I think we were involved, too, because we know the city. Like, this is a case that we did have a leg up. If he were going to school in Atlanta, I wonder if it would have been different. But with this one, because we knew the area, I think we had a greater degree of involvement.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I think I would have been more involved if he was going to another city. Really? Because nothing about. Here we knew, okay, the village is good. Let's start there.
Second generation village.
And of course, he fell in love with it. But it was different when he filled out the application, it was, okay, adult, we need your offer letter or a bank statement that says you can pay for this for the entire year. And Tanner's so there's no, well, my parents are still paying for it because he's in school still. It's just.
Actually, in a more precise way, we did realize that actually his bank statement is his 529, and so technically that is his asset. And so, yes, I actually, in the end, my name for the first time does not show up on any of his applications. Yeah. He is fully responsible for that. Hallelujah, praise the Lord. And yes, while it is a bank statement coming from some savings, you're a law student, you don't got the income.
Well, and again, it's eye-opening. And for those of you who have children who have now graduated and are trying to afford life, it's insane. These prices are, unless you have 2 or 3 roommates, it's
if you're in a metropolitan area, right? If you're out somewhere other than, say, the top 10 markets, of course, you just would have thought that a place like Dallas would not have had that same New York vibe. And I know it's cheaper than New York, of course. That idea of, though, I don't know how it's affordable without a roommate. In this situation, there's the right savings, the right path for Tanner, and so he is going to go without a roommate the first year, but I don't know what years 2 and 3 are going to look like.
Yeah.
He may need or choose to tap into a roommate.
Yeah, but it was...
It's more than our mortgage, and I think a lot of folks have said that, and some of that, okay, yeah, you did your mortgage 30 years ago. I get it. Still, you think of getting an X square foot home compared to a 10% X square foot apartment.
And a lot of these kids, coming out this year, some of their contracts and,
got deferred.
Yes. So
this is a hard year coming out of school.
Yeah,
I'm very thankful that our kids are where they are.
Mm-hmm.
One still in school and one already choosing a professional or a career, a law school.
Yeah.
It's a rough market, and it's happened before. I came out in a good market. I've worked in bad markets, and I've seen what happens to people who are coming out in those bad markets, and it's challenging.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, but it has been that week that Tanner was home. It was fine. It was just, senior, graduated, almost 22.
He was living an independent life
Yes.
that didn't match up with, and I know not like he was out party raging, woo, that kind of thing. It just, he was at times not including us as you would anyone that you were a guest in their home, and that's kind of the difference is, yes, you are an adult, but you're still a guest in a home. So just keep us informed if you're going to do something, that kind of thing. And so it was nothing dramatic or tragic or, oh my gosh, we've got this really comical story to tell. It just, his independence did not match up with being a guest in a home at one or two times.
He realized, he said, I'm just so not used to like telling my
Letting
roommates, hey, I'm, not coming home tonight or what, So I was like, yeah, we're not your roommates. So
the bed and breakfast needs to know.
So we will be trying to get his apartment set up as quickly as possible so that and he was very respectful while he was here. There was no but it was just, he just was so in the mentality of, oh, I don't give anyone info when I'm, which is fine. I get that.
And the reverse is true. So let's talk about the empty nesters for a second. We have lived a life for months, and as we're saying these words, I'm remembering having very similar sentences to say around Christmas when they're back for a few weeks. Mm-hmm. There's something about being back for a longer period of time. We have now had to adjust in a fine way of, oh, wait, our decisions are influenced by someone who's living in the house as well. Tegan has a job that has hours that aren't traditional 9-to-5 type jobs. And if we want to do something with her or vice versa, or if our schedules want to align, we now have to consider.
One of the texts is actually about the, because I think it was, here. This was, I had texted Tegan Sunday. I always make our meal. I was like, what time are you working? Because I'm trying to plan dinner. So what, if it's for 2 or for 3, and things that I know that she enjoys that, or that she doesn't enjoy that we enjoy. So I was trying to, still
You're taking
accommodate
into someone else's
her.
opinion into the account.
And, like this week, I went out on Monday night, Tuesday night. You and I had plans, and, she said, well, I guess I'll just get Jersey Mike's. I was like, okay.
That's the other part of it, is the return to the empty nest of, you're right. You are on your own. And
which I think I have the.
Oh, yeah.
This was, so this was another, we're sitting like I don't even know what night this was. We were sitting watching a movie or something. We had finished. I mean, I was probably already in my PJs, and she texted, could someone go get me Jersey Mike's? Because she was at work and she was starving. And you even made the comment that, it feels like high school.
It's like high school
team.
Where I was picking up her Whataburger on the way home after the football game. So there's been things like that, this was another, hey, who's this from?
Tegan, I left my AirPods in your car. Are there headphones lying around anywhere? Well, I was at work. I didn't see this till how many ever minutes later.
Right.
And she said, I found my ones that, with the cord. So, it's just.
I think the theme you're showing us here is just simply, now that folks are in the house, and folk right now, but soon to be folks, it's this weird bungee back into consideration. That sounds like I'm being impolite, but just where you think of other folks' involvement in decisions, that you get texts that you wouldn't get otherwise. That, well, if your AirPods are missing in Tucson, we're not going to do anything with your AirPods in Tucson.
Yeah, it's just, and same go. I mean, I had, she said Luke is coming over. Then, but I love Tegan because she still is like asking permission. Is it okay if I go do this? I'm like, yeah, that's fine. You don't have to ask me like it's,
I think we actually responded. I don't know that you showed the response. I thought we did. If we didn't, we said it later.
I think,
offline.
I think you and I talked about that.
But we said to her, hey, you realize you don't have to ask our permission.
Yeah. Keep me updated if you're going to be gone, but you don't have to ask me, you know. So, it's just there, I get it. She's trying to, this is her first summer back.
She's figuring it out, too.
After her first year of college. So she's trying to figure out her boundaries. We're trying to figure out, we've already had experience with this with Tanner, but now it's, both of them. And then, here's the issue with Tanner that we have is that it's because we don't see him now every day. And this started happening senior year. It was of college. We would go longer than a couple of days without a text. And I'm like, are you good? Are things good? Oh, yeah, great. And I think sometimes they feel like if nothing good or exciting or bad happened, that they don't need to
Well, think about it with our parents. And I keep saying our parents, now your parents. Do you text your mom every day?
No, but we never did that to begin with.
I know, but I could see that evolving over time. Yeah, when they're 35, are we going to get a text every day type thing?
Yeah, it's a little different than, I don't know.
It.
But yeah, so now we're trying to, can you, because we were talking about, of course, flights somewhere, and can you talk? And it's always, I can in 15. Give me 20. Give me the, and then this was, they were headed out. We needed to talk again about some logistics stuff. They were going tubing, and, he said, but I can call you.
Yeah, going to do a nice float till sunset. There are elements of, I'm going to use, I'm going to not say it negatively. I'm going to use what Tanner's sending as inspiration, that as empty nesters, we need to find a way to go do a nice little float till sunset sometime, that we can have that flexibility that he's experiencing now before he goes to law school.
Tanner is that kid that, I mean, he's the cruise director. He's, that's what his friends have called him, referred to him as before, because he will plan things. If you want to come, you can come. If not, but he is very social, very wants to, be doing things. And I think he's this is his first summer to stay out there. And yes, he's working, but,
for those that were on audio,
yeah, I did the air quotes.
She did the air quotes there. You heard it in her tone. He is making an income. It's not the hardest of jobs, and he knows that.
But, he's doing things that he didn't get to do during school, and he's like, man, I wish I would have done some more of this stuff, but I'm glad he's out there now and is getting to do it instead of once he gets back and then, doesn't have time or money to do any of this stuff. So, but yes, all of his, we've been still trying to deal with his apartment.
Stop down on this one. As an example of they're back, and all we've been talking about is how involved we are as parents, because we're empty nest, but we're parents, right? We're involved. And look how more involved we are than we thought we'd be involved. This is a great example of, but you're not involved. He's going through the process of an application with an apartment complex. And yes, he contacted us if he needed a piece of information, and we helped him with that piece of information. A few days later, because I think it was Saturday that he completed it, whatever, this says Tuesday. You had to reach out and say, hey, any news from the village? Well, his response is, yeah, they received my documents and are processing it. Right. In his mind, he's like, I got this. I'm not keeping y'all up to date, not because I'm hiding it from you, but I'm a 20X year adult, and I got this thing. And this is a good example of, yeah, parent, I'm good.
Well, and I'm his mom. I want things to be set up.
Sure.
I want things to be ready for him. I want to make it nice. That's a phrase from another podcast. But I want things to be as seamless as possible for him. And we're sitting there going, because we could get he can technically move in a week before he even is coming home. And I said, oh, well, we'll just get the keys. And then you said, I don't know that they will legally give us the keys. Yeah. And
we're just random people to an apartment
I know.
complex.
And I'm like, oh, so, I'm hoping Tanner can tell them, hey, my parents are coming, because it would be great for us to have things done before.
I think we don't have time, because we actually are recording this before heading out to church. I think that'd be interesting. You said something there that's a little bit cluing. It would be good for us. What's the definition of us in your mind right there? Is us the three of us, or is us the two of us? Because I wonder if in Tanner's mind, he doesn't care if he gets to move in early that week. You and I would love to get the furniture out of the house and set up, because he's getting a lot of furniture in the house. So it's good for, I know this, it's good for us, Rick Clancy. I don't know that Rick Clancy Tanner as an us cares as much. And that's part of the empty nest evolution that I think we are still figuring out, is recognizing and almost letting go of things that, yes, it would be important to me if this happened, but it's the other person's life, and I have to let that go.
It's a good question.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting we have an answer.
Well, I think you and I we've had a lot of discussions, not necessarily empty nest related, but around this subject of, you and I like things wrapped up, tied in a bow, put on the shelf.
I know exactly what we're talking about here.
I don't know how both of us ended up that way and can make it work in our marriage, because a lot of times you have one person that's
the loosey-goosey.
But you and I are both very, I don't sometimes take it to the extreme with the spreadsheets and that kind of thing, but I like things to be I like,
you like it to be done.
I like our house to be organized. I like things to be done. I don't like stuff left out places. So I think that's just in my nature, that if he can move in on the 12th, let's get it moved in, and let's get it, and
he
then
walks in and it's a done apartment.
Because I know a lot of this is going to fall on me, because one, he's not going to be here for another probably 2 weeks. And then we have boom, 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 all this stuff right after that. So it would be so nice to have everything done. Yeah. And, Tanner trusts me in picking out things that, and I said, I'll send you pictures and things if I need to go start buying
even that,
stuff.
Though, I think this is an interesting place to work on. It's such a therapy kind of word. And the conversation that you and I are alluding to was actually exposed to me through the therapist of, look, hey, here's these categories. Why don't you inventory? What do you have control over versus what do you not have control over? And even something like that Tanner might trust you, and I'll say you here because he probably didn't trust me to purchase, because I don't trust me to purchase. Trust you, but is that the right thing? Should he be making his own purchases? Should he do his own choices? And I'm not challenging you.
I know, but here's my thing to that, is that if he were starting a job, I think I'd feel differently. He's still in school. Who's paying for that school? It's still coming from this.
This is good. Oh, I can already see all of my little newspaper articles that I read of Dear Abby and others of, when you take money, there's strings attached.
But
and
I'm
all that.
not. But I am not.
I know.
Different. I want it to be set up for him to be nice. I have never been the mom, and I will not be the mom that just, shows up on his doorstep because I'm paying for this so I can come in.
I know that.
I don't do that.
I'm glad you're clarifying that for those that don't know
that.
You. No, that's not you.
But I do want our kids to be comfortable. I want them to be set up. And I think it just goes back to, again, I don't like loose ends. Yeah. I don't like things that are not settled.
Yeah.
I don't. it unnerves me. And so
Yeah. Ooh, this got
That's
good at the
just-
end, and we're actually like I'm cheating. I'm looking at the clock. We do need to wrap up here.
No.
This got good because I think this last part is exposed through the fact. Let's go back to what this episode was about. The kids are back, and what does that mean, and what are the differences there? And this right here, this discussion, I think is going to be such a key part of what it means to be successful at empty nesting and successful at being the parent inside of an empty nest as your kids evolve into that adulthood, is that balance.
And having one back in town,
That's going to be so different.
He's in town. He's not in our town, but he's in
he's a driving
town.
distance.
So it will be interesting. I will say this, though. I have really enjoyed having, I love Tanner. He's not here, but I really have enjoyed having Tegan back. Because, even yesterday, I was like, I yelled to you, hey, I need to run to Walmart. It's like, oh, wait, I'll come with you because I need, so it is.
A sentence I never say.
It's fun. And we're supposed to start our sandwich tour around town. Tegan and I are huge sandwich people. And so we're supposed to start our sandwich tour.
This, I would love for y'all, when you finish the tour, for me not to be in the episode and you and Tegan narrate at least a portion of the sandwich tour.
Yeah,
Kiddo,
chances of that probably not.
Very low. But man, I'd be more than happy to sit those 10 minutes out and let y'all do that. Wow. I did not think and that's the joy of sometimes being slightly unscripted. This was fun to get to a conversation that got a deeper than and I think there's more to cover in that.
Probably.
Well, forget cover. Like, we know what we're doing. There's more to experience and learn, and we're going to screw up, and we're going to get it right, and we're going to, share those stories with anyone who's willing to watch or listen with us.
And I'm sure, I know in my group that I'm going out with Thursday night, several of those kids have graduated and have moved into apartments, and, we all kind of, I think most of us feel kind of the same way, that you're trying to set your kids up to start off strong. So,
yeah.
But, well, there you go. It's been another episode of The Loud Quiet,
Living the Empty Nest.